In this video, I'm going to chat and show you how a couple of different datum schemes work. So we've got a part here. It's just a widget. This is for training purposes, but we've got two different feature control frames with different datums. Now, the first thing we do when we check a drawing is, read the notes. No notes on this drawing. Now we're going to identify the datums. So this is simple enough. I'm just going to circle. If you had a piece of paper, you could highlight them. Datum C, B, datum A. In this drawing, we have datum D. Okay. Now we want to identify what the datum features are. Are they holes, planes, center planes, threads? There could be a whole bunch of different things. So what I'll do here is go through. We'll start with B. B is attached to an extension line that goes to this surface. It's not directly in line with the dimension, so it's not a center plane. So datum B is that plane right there. Ditto with datum C, it's on an extension line, not directly in line with the dimension. The datum feature is this plane right here. Datum A, same idea. It's this plane right here. Datum D is attached to a feature control frame that's attached to a hole. The datum here is the axis of this hole. Right? So those are our four datums. That's how we're going to set it up. Now, we have to pay attention to the feature control frames to know what order we use the datums. The A, B, and C thing, they're not always in that order. It could be, F, C, G. It's just, random what letters people choose. Normally they choose A as primary, B as secondary, C as tertiary. They don't have to, okay? So let's start right here. This feature control frame, datum A is primary, so we'll put the part against datum A. Datum B is secondary, so we'll push it up against an angle block or whatever to get 2 points on datum B, and then datum C gets 1 point of contact. Now, you're going to have measurements come from B and C. Datum A is just there for orientation purposes, but the origin of the part for that feature control frame is right here. All measurements, the 0 comes from here. We've got Y, X, and then Z over here. You typically won't report too much for a thin part in the Z. If it's a really thick part, you'd measure the position on both sides of the part and take the worst to get the tilt of the hole. It's a really thin part. You're typically not going to have tilt problems. Okay, so you have to look at the feature control frame to know what order to use them. That comes in handy when we check these other holes up here. So datum D establishes an axis. Now, to check this pattern of 11 holes, we're going to have datum A primary. Datum D at MMC is our secondary datum. Now, this works a little bit differently. In this case, to check this pattern of holes, our 0 is this datum, datum D. All our measurements for these holes come from there, right? Now, datum B in this case is just there for orientation. Now, we can get our X and Y's for all of these holes. Datum A is going to handle the perpendicularity of the holes to datum A. Datum B's only purpose right here is to keep the part from rotating when you're checking it. Okay, there's no measurements coming from datum B. So it does a very different thing than datum C right here, where you're actually taking measurements. Now, as D at MMC, that means you could have a hard gauge there. You could simulate it in its virtual condition. You would need this to be at MMC as well, that feature control frame, so you can simulate all of the holes at MMC to really make a gauge for it. The correct way to check it is to have like a mandrel, if this is RFS, to expand and take up all the slack in that hole and then measure from there, okay? So that's how this, we have two datum reference frames in this part, even though, it's a pretty simple part. Some of your measurements come from here, some of your measurements come from the middle of the part. Just depends how the datums are arranged in the feature control frames, right? So that's it for this video. I'm gonna make more of these with this cool new screen I have. I can go over the parts and write on them and stuff. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and check out the channel for more content coming soon.